Hello, and welcome to the Cubotica webinar series. Today's topic is transforming transportation and logistics with robotic process automation. My name is Anna Clark with Zen Media. We're seeing a tremendous rise in interest in all things artificial intelligence in the media, specifically in RPA technology. We also see great value in doing a deep dive with subject matter experts who can shed further light on these emerging technologies for your company. I'm very pleased to introduce two tremendously influential experts in their fields, very knowledgeable people on RPA and emerging technologies. Dave Brockovich is Chief Technology Officer with Polaris Transportation, and Mahesh Vinayagam is CEO and founder of Cubotica, one of the most rapidly growing automation as a service firms in the world. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Anna.
Absolutely. So Dave, let's start with you. You are a leader in your field as the Chief Technology Officer of a company that is known for logistics and transportation, but is seen by many in your field as a technology company now. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So my name is Dave Brockovich, and I'm the CTO for the Polaris Transportation group of companies. So there's a multitude of logistics and transportation companies that Polaris drives, and one of the main ones is our asset-based company that moves less than truckload freight across the border from Canada to US and US to Canada. In saying that, we've also looked to transform and digitize ourselves. So my main role is to help Polaris Transportation Group of companies move forward in the journey in digitization. And over the last 3 years, we've been very successful in moving multiple branches of digitization, including RPA, intelligent document processing, blockchain, and mobile applications within our organization.
Thank you. And Mahesh, you are a provider of many of the services Dave mentioned, and also somebody who is partnered with Polaris Transportation. Share a little bit more about your company, please.
Absolutely, Anna. Greetings all. My name is Mahesh Vinayagam, and I'm the CEO and founder of Cubotica. We are an automation as a service company serving customers of all sizes, from the world's biggest humanitarian agencies to financial institutions to transportation organizations like Polaris and energy companies and healthcare companies. And we also actually provide robotic process automation services on leading products such as UiPath, as well as having our own product, intelligent document processing product called Document AI, which is what we actually will discuss today, and which is what is being implemented at Polaris. So it's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Well, it's exciting to get to moderate this discussion, and I'll ask a few questions, and then I look forward to hearing the two of you actually have a nice knowledge exchange about these topics. Dave, we'd love to hear from you as an early adopter, a little bit about the journey that you took in making these decisions about how to evaluate these technologies and implement them in your company, and what benefits you're seeing.
Thank you, Anna. So the journey began about 3 years ago, or maybe even prior to that. In a previous life and role, I was a senior director of a financial institution that drove some very serious automation. I was privy to some of that and was really excited to see that technology can help and boost human intelligence by utilizing some of these tools where we are less managing the system, the systems are less managing us, and we're managing the systems more as human inputs, but the drivers are robotic. And certainly from that perspective, it intrigued me. So coming to Polaris approximately 3 years ago, our CEO was very interested in a digital journey path. His main concerns was to digitize the organizations where it made sense to make a very seamless operation between all business lines, but also make it easy to do business with Polaris from a customer's perspective. And then again, last but not least, making his employees feel that their contribution to the process and to the Polaris organization is much higher than just punching keyboards all day and doing administrative work. So this is how we embarked on the RPA journey. It was exciting. We sourced a few enterprise grade RPA engines. We selected one of our choice, and we operationalized it by making it a SaaS model, a hybrid SaaS. We ended up getting an AWS environment set up and launching the application on that environment. Just having some insights into that, it takes a lot of power to compute. So having that said, we wanted to make sure we had a solid platform for that. Our journey began right off the bat at around a 3-month initiation process where we stepped through and picked a good use case. We didn't try to boil the ocean. We know we had a plan or a roadmap to go forward to, and we chose one of the more complex processes within our organization, and we decided to automate it. And that's what would have gave us the success that we needed. So we embarked on that journey. 3 months into it, we really moved hard and fast. And within 6 months, we had a full RPA solution enhanced and running in our organization, which continues today to roughly run about 80% of our intelligent document processing.
So well, that sounds like a very seamless implementation. Surely you acquired some lessons learned, though, for the listeners. Tell us what you learned in that first experience.
Yeah, great question, Anna. So insights say, many executives will manage by magazine and articles, and one of the things that we didn't want to do is we didn't want to step in that. Our CEO was interested in RPA. He didn't really understand it at the time, and we really had to dive deep. So, just picking up a project like that is not the most simplest process. There's a lot of involvement. There's cultural shifts and changes that need to happen. There's education and communication that need to happen to your people. In many facets of business lines, people are maybe negating to go down this route because folks seem or think that these, robotic process automations in the back end will take their jobs. That's not true. With robotics, you need a good set of skill sets to enhance your people so that the system can do its job and take away, the less, or let's say the cumbersome processes, and give, the staff an opportunity to lift their skill sets into other things that are much more, let's say, less robotic and much more engineering type level, or we call it the engineer, but it certainly can be more communications, customer relations, those types of things that robots really can't replace. And so the precautionary measure to everyone is really assess your situations, make sure that you have a good use case, and of course, most importantly, have a good partner within the software element that you can trust, and they can understand your business model, and at the same time they have a very good understanding of their own technology and tools, so that they can all be applied and have a nice mix, so when you do launch it, it works in harmony.
Well, speaking of the partner that you worked with, we have one important one of them here, Mahesh Vinayagam with Cubotica. I have to know, what were the criteria you used to select Cubotica, or that you would recommend any other company use in selecting a service provider?
Yeah, great question, Anna. From our perspective, what we wanted to do, and because we went through this process a few times, and I also try to use best practices where I don't take anything away. I'm getting to a very, pointed matter, and I'll be very transparent. It's, in the world of RPA, there are many, many classes. There are many, let's say, great tools out there that could be used, but you have to understand which one will fit your model. Initially, when we went, we looked a little bit generic, but at the same time, we also wanted a boutique fit. And that partner provided that. And now why we chose Cubotica per se is over the evolution of 3 years, what we've been seeing is a little bit of waning on the vendor we chose. And now with Cubotica, we see that more boutique style delivery. With the Cubotica folks, they're very technically adept. They're very precise. They project manage very well, and they're very much tied to your hip, so that they really feel involved in not only just creating the functionality, but making sure that they very much tighten the relationships with the SMEs within the business, and also providing insights every week. I can't say enough about the Cubotica team in how they've ventured and how we picked them. We selected them out of a group of people, and I basically put it out there almost like an RFP to say, put your money where your mouth is. If you're saying that you can do this stuff, and some of it's complex. Transportation, although it seems easy that we're just moving freight, there is a lot of paperwork, a lot of checklists. There, you can imagine we deal with the border agencies. It's tough. It's not easy. There's a lot of fields. There's clientele that we cannot control how they send us information. So we have to manage their information. And sometimes they provide it and sometimes they don't. So we need not only smart people, but we need smart systems to help those smart people decide what to do and when. So having Cubotica in place with us, we've seen some of that due diligence, and we're very, very grateful that we've picked them. And right now they've launched 2 use cases with us. One is a very high integral automated AP process that we're working with our finance department, who today, if you can imagine, we're dealing with, tens of thousands of invoices a month, and we've got a very small team to manage it. It takes hours and hours and hours for these people to manage statements. And then there's a lot of errors. There's a lot of variances. So utilizing Cubotica, what we're seeing is that level, and we've raised the bar high, 90% accuracy rate through our STP, or straight through processing. And they're showing their numbers. They're showing the proof in the pudding. We didn't just select them out of the blue just because they say they can do it. We made them prove it, and they did. And so that's just one use case. There is another use case that they're going to help us with quotes and rates. That's, for us, huge. Not only are we going to, on the AP side, manage our costs, but now we're going to be able to manage revenue and top line. Now we can answer clients. If you can imagine, we get 1,000 quotes a day from multiple vendors. We have a small team. We can't answer them all. And so we leave a lot of money on the table. But now with the bots being able to manage that at a quick pace, or a quicker pace, we're able to at least communicate back with our clientele, so we won't miss at least one quote. But needless to say, one of the big things that I am truly grateful for these systems, doesn't matter what system you pick, make sure that the intelligence can be brought back to you, because that is key to survival. You will recognize things when you launch an RPA or an intelligent document processing process, that the gold nugget is the data that it provides, and it tells you exactly what's going on, and there'll be things that you'll see that you never thought happened. So that to me is gold. So,
well, that's been extremely helpful, and sharing the criteria you use to select the service provider and the many ways in which you judge the success. Since we have the man himself here, we'd love to hear from you, Mahesh. From your point of view, what made Polaris Transportation the perfect partner to do this work with?
Absolutely. Thank you. And first up, thank you, Dave, for giving us the opportunity. And I know you work with some of the world's leading organizations in this space and products. So we are very blessed and grateful for the opportunity to be working with Polaris. But when it came to the use case, I think we probably spoke 2-3 quarters ago, and one of the first challenges that Dave and his team put across to us is that quote rates and coding systems, and said hey, do you think you can solve this problem, right? And we, as a intelligent document processing organization, we were actually looking at documents, mostly unstructured documents, semi-structured documents, like invoices, bills, orders, and so on and so forth. And for us, the natural course of action was to go from that document-based processing towards some really unstructured data in emails, chats, and other forms of information that the enterprises typically use. And we were actually, our product was getting ready. We had a few models that were actually working pretty well. And we were very confident that that might actually work. And in fact, we actually had a client who is actually in the nonprofit industry with whom we did certain models, and it gave us some level of predictability. We believe that we could actually serve Dave and his team's needs better. So we took our document AI product, which obviously takes the documents and invoices and so on and so forth, and added this capability, the annotation capability to it. And we presented that concept to Dave and his team, and they were instantly, surprised and impressed with the results that we have shown. We were actually, we were ourselves like a little bit taken back, like, wow, we thought this was kind of elaborate. We had actually one client, but we weren't sure that, is it ready for the market? While the team was obviously very confident that it was ready for the market, but this validation really helped us. And I think the key was that use case, that is a very important use case. It's not a typical back office function. It's not about cost efficiency or cost improvements, productivity improvement. This is about revenue generation opportunity for our customers. So I think, we all like really jumped at it. This is going to be a game changer. If we could actually serve this need and help Dave achieve those top line numbers and kind of, meet more customers, and increase his business, nothing like it. I think as a software as a service company, this was very important for us. So I think as we turn our product into more transaction-based, results-based, outcome-based kind of a business model, this was very important, because now I can actually get to other transportation companies and provide this particular aspect of service, and in fact ask them for a share of their revenue. I'm sure, like, for them leaving so much money on the table, I guess that this is this is a great opportunity. In fact, like, we would love to be partnering with Dave and his team to kind of go to that industry. That's kind of one of the ideas that we have. So I think the potential, the complexity, and for us to prove against some of the world's best products that we can actually function for all of those reasons. We kind of really wanted to get this project and went out at it. And I think our Chief Product Officer, Prabhu Subramanian, he needs to be actually recognized here and brought up. He actually was the brainchild, because behind this product, and in fact the engagement with Dave and his team.
Well, that's very fascinating to understand that you approach this first as, is this a problem you can solve? It was a very strong use case, but beyond that, surely there are some cultural aspects of Polaris Transportation that were helpful in creating the synergy and the success. Can you shed some light on that for the listeners here who are considering whether their own company is ready to go down this path?
Yeah, and definitely. So synergies internally in a company needs to, well, first of all, the goals need to be outlined. And I think it's very important that executive management from the top down embrace this type of technology, understand it, that they also understand how their people will react. Communication is the key to understanding what's going to happen. You can't just shove software or technology down an organization's throat and expect it to work. A lot of people think that, hey, you know what, we'll just put this RPA stuff in and all our pains and troubles will go away. It's not the case. It's still not, from my perspective. I think the world of RPA, AI, and machine learning still has a long way to go. I think it's improved incredibly. However, I know a few very good, call it Excel magicians that could probably do a lot of this stuff on their own as well, and some maybe do. I call RPA and AI and machine learning to some level Excel macro on steroids, because that's what it is. There are lots and lots of algorithms that I think I'd recommend no one to try to write it themselves unless they're a data scientist or have data scientists available for them. So anyway, long story short is you have to trust the system. You have to trust your use case. You have to trust that what you're doing for your people is taking away pains, not adding more burdens. In the days of ERP, when first ERP came aboard, it was a wonderful thing because it brought many people and processes together from an order to cash perspective. You could see it in one stream, but it wasn't always easy to deliver. In fact, I remember years and years ago when we went on an ERP system for a multi-million-dollar national company that I worked for. They were surprised on how many people they actually had to hire to make sure that those systems work properly. But now we're in the day of age where we shouldn't need necessarily the people to operate the systems. The systems should be able to operate on their own and bring intelligence back to the people so that they can make the proper decisions and make the corrective actions. And I think this is where people will enjoy their work more, where they understand, hey, these systems are going to be like an alarm clock for me. They're going to wake me up. As long as the power's on and as long as the time is ticking and we're in the right time zone at let's call it my alarm clock at 5:30 or 6 o'clock is going to ring. And it's going to keep ringing until you wake up or until you press the button. So I've simplified it a bit, but that's exactly what it is. You can try to wake up on your own if you're really good and you can be consistent. But sometimes, the body aches and the body's tired. So, you wake up and it's 8 o'clock. Oh my God, I'm late. So those are my recommendations.
Well, thank you. And this question really for either one of you who wants to answer, but I know I'm curious. Surely there are other companies in the transportation industry who have a strong use case, many needs out there that RPA can address. What are the barriers do you all see as preventing them from going down this road? It seems like clearly where the future is going to be heading.
I'll start first if it's okay, Mahesh, and you can certainly jump in. But just understanding transportation over the last 3-4 years, or maybe more a bit. I was on a board of directors for a long time. It's the hesitation. Transportation and logistics, well, maybe even not so much to the supply chain, but transportation has always been, let's say, a ruler, or let's say a controller of their own destiny for the most part. Economies of scale certainly matter, but from a transportation perspective, it's always been about people, labor, allowing people to do the work, and then the trucks to move the freight. That's kind of been traditional. And what's happened over the years is digitization, although important, and I think many of the transportation companies have learned very early that email is their lifeline now. It's not just the phone or the faxes. That took a while. And now email is just overused and abused. But moving forward, these technologically advanced systems like RPA and others are sometimes hesitant for the transportation companies to invest in, because they have other projects, they have situations where they don't have things under control, they don't have standards, they have people doing things in multitude different ways. So one person or one or two people can do the same process totally different. And one could do it in 5 minutes and another one will do it in half an hour. What happens there is traditionally, and it's no one's fault, it's just tradition, that when you want to standardize and you want to apply these types of systems, you're going to learn really quickly that there is a best way of doing it. And if you can automate it, even better. Even if you discover the best way of doing it and apply manual processes to it, you're winning. So the hesitation in the transportation, I think, and I'll put it very transparently, is cost, time, and effort. So this is where they wane. This is where they don't want to be. They'd be, I think, and I'm not speaking for all transportation companies, but I'm saying for a good part of them, all they care about a lot is, of course, their trucks, assets, fuel, dock, whatever else they may have, and it's all physical. And where they not seeing the forest from the trees is there's a digital element that they absolutely need to align to. Otherwise, they're going to lose the game very quickly.
Well, cost, time, and effort, those are some big barriers, but clearly you're getting past them. So congratulations. Mahesh, what is your point of view on this?
Yes, thank you, Anna. As you know, as Dave rightly pointed out, I think the transportation industry is quickly adopting digital tools, and they are starting to realize the amount of manual work that's being happening there. And they're also one of the most disrupted industries. If you see in the latest COVID crisis, one of the industries that actually boomed, the amount of trade and commerce that happened actually increased. In fact, like if you think about the last decade, when like the men moving a lot around the world, this time around the last 2 years, people actually weren't moving as much, but the things were moving, and they were actually buying more as the economy increased. The buying power also increased to an extent, and people had a lot of disposable income, so they actually keep buying things. And when you buy things, they need to be moved from one place to another. And this industry has been disrupted the most, and they think they need the most help, in fact, by most help to do things faster. And as Dave pointed out, some of those manual things that's happening in that industry needs to be digitized and needs to be digitized quick. This is happening fast as this week, and it's been happening for quite some time. And so we believe that in that industry, there's a lot to be had, and also as newer players are coming into that space, and as new players coming in, they bring in new ways of doing business, new ways of actually communicating, exchanging information, and all that. And when we say new ways, it's kind of these days new means digital, right? So there digital means obviously there are newer systems that people have to kind of integrate with, and it's not quite, they're not quite ready with the amount of shortage of staffing right now that's happening in the world, shortage of talent as well. So while there is enough money, there is enough business volume in this industry, in order for taking advantage, they also need people, right? And if you do not have that, it's a cycle of things that's happening around in that industry. So the amount of people that's required to transform systems is actually very less for them to do it. So they need SaaS products. They need companies that actually can help them out without them having to spend a lot of time or them having to hire new talent. And finally, I think as these integration with those systems cannot really happen through APIs and other methods, you would need methods like RPA to kind of integrate this growing set of new players in the industry as at least, from a stopgap, or at least for the next 3-4 years until things all settle down and, they all find a way how to actually communicate with each other pretty easily. So like I said, there's multitude of things happening in the industry. So we are very happy that we are actually playing a very small part in the transformation of that industry. So we are very proud that we are taking that step towards it.
Well, what I can sense from both of you is your vision is boundless, and both of you. So it's very exciting to hear what you see coming, 5-10 years away. I think that'd be a good parting message from each of you, if you just want to share a little bit about what you plan on doing next with these technologies in the next few years. Dave?
Anna. So from a Polaris perspective and a client side, but also an innovator, we do have digital capability within the Polaris Transport group of companies. I run also a company called North Star Digital Solutions, where we also build applications and manage a lot of the, let's call it, back-end connection points, the APIs that Mahesh spoke about is really, our onus today that will tie a lot of these robotic systems into our back end. And we do that, I think, fairly well. that is also a success that is needed in order to make things comply. But what I do want to say is, for the future needs, Mukesh, I guess this question goes to you, is as we're seeing growth in market spaces. I mean, I'm sure with RPA there was a lot of, let's call it, heavy requirements from the financial perspective, as finance companies and like banks have deeper pockets. They also have a high need for high volume transactions that are repeatable. But what did you see, let's say, from a transportation perspective versus a financial perspective, and how do you think your company will align with more transportation slash manufacturing slash distribution type needs? Although they're administrative, they're definitely different.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just mentioned earlier, Dave, I think this industry is transforming, and so is manufacturing, and energy is another area which also has an element of transportation, manufacturing together, if you will. And in these spaces, one of the areas that we are trying to compete, and where we are trying to create a niche, is in the intelligent document processing. So that's where our product document.ai comes in. And with document, what we are trying to do is kind of help companies do a lot more with very less, right? So very less in terms of even whether it's dollars or effort, and also time, right? So all of that dimensions that we want to reduce. So to that extent, I think the more use cases that we see within a specific industry, then we could actually be able to solve that problem even better, right? So we could actually get the models get trained with the context, not just from a format perspective. Right now we're looking at, okay, this is a format, this is an invoice. Invoice could be similar for any industry, but then the data elements, certain features that you talked about, like the customs, the taxes, like other charges that don't typically appear in most other cases might appear here. So I think the context of data is important, and as we get into machine learning and natural language processing, for example, with your code rating systems, etc., we need the context. I think having this focus will help us to create a verticalized software product, and our goal is to create at least 2 or 3 verticalized platforms in the next couple of years, right? So I think you nicely put it, and that's how we are seeing like transportation, logistics, and manufacturing together, because of certain types of documents, certain types of information that we'll be handling. So we want to provide a seamless experience to our clients. They can actually go and click a button, configure themselves, connect our systems, connect document.ai to their enterprise resource planning systems, and then start configuring it themselves from the cloud. That's kind of one of the vision that we have. And then we have another vision to create a market, an industry solution for healthcare around revenue cycle management. So that's another foray that we have, and we could actually discuss it. There's a series of webinars. We could actually cover that in the next webinar series, Anna. But that's actually our objective, to at least create 2. And we are already started work on it. We have been trying to acquire a revenue cycle management company, so we could actually get that knowledge from what we have seen. Working with you, Dave, we figured that domain knowledge is actually important. Luckily, we had people that has some experience on it, so we were able to do it, but we're not going to get that in the future. So I'm going to kind of look at ways of doing this much better. So I think we have some very big plans, and with our support of our investors and customers and partners, I'm sure we would probably get there.
Well, speaking of IDP, I understand from reading a recent Gartner study that Cubotica was recognized as one of the leading providers in building the marketplace for this technology. And I can see how partnering with companies like Polaris Transportation would be extremely important as you go out and build more demand for these services. Thank you both for sharing your experience. It's been illuminating. If there's nothing else to cover, we can cap it off. But if anybody has parting thoughts on anything else, please share.
Oh, yeah, I would love to wish everyone a great new year in 2022 and a very successful year.
Yes, same here. Happy New Year to everyone, and let's all drive on the RPA wagon in some way, shape, or form, because ultimately, we need to manage systems. Systems shouldn't be managing us. So that's hopefully, and again, I guess the moniker here for everyone is let's boost human intelligence by utilizing artificial intelligence.
Excellent takeaway. Thank you for being here. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.